Official science is skeptical about the existence of the soul, but scientific interest has nevertheless encouraged researchers to continue their search for it. Among the latter was the scientist Pyotr Garyaev. He conducted a number of different experiments, through which he tried to prove the existence of the soul. In addition, the scientist became known for his unique work on drug-free improvement of human health, but, unfortunately and to everyone's bewilderment, strangely left this world in November 2020. A group of researchers under Pyotr Garyaev, who studied the properties of DNA, back in 1985 managed to get amazing results. But then the scientists wrote it all off to a malfunction of measuring instruments. Garyaev and his colleagues studied cell nuclei taken from chicken embryos. By destroying the nuclei, the scientists extracted the carrier of hereditary information, DNA molecules. By studying the resulting material, the researchers sought to solve the mystery of the origin of life. The DNA molecules were irradiated with a laser. When they encountered DNA, the laser beam was scattered. During one such experiment, scientists managed to make an accidental discovery. The laser beam was accidentally directed at an empty cuvette that just a couple of minutes before had contained genetic material. In other words, the device measured the emptiness. But even in this case, the laser photons were scattered, as after interacting with DNA molecules. At that time Pyotr Garyaev, like his colleagues, was convinced that such a thing was simply impossible, and wrote it all off as a malfunction of the device. Almost 10 years have passed. Conducting similar experiments with DNA molecules already in the laboratory of another institute, Garyaev realized what exactly met with a beam of laser light in the void. This time the DNA molecules were exposed to high temperature and measured their spectrum with highly sensitive instruments. Under the influence of high temperatures, the heredity molecules melted and turned into dead matter. After we removed the dead DNA molecules from the cuvette, the laser beam, hitting the empty cuvette, continued to scatter as if it had met some kind of obstacle. We found that it interacted with phantoms of dead DNA. Pyotr Garyaev suggested that during the death of DNA molecules leave behind a kind of phantom, which stores certain information. The phantom is bound to the place of death and can exist for a long time. Devices in Garyaev's laboratory registered it for 40 days. After that, the phantom's shells were destroyed. It has been experimentally proven that a genetic molecule leaves an information-energetic trace. Very strong and definite. This trace continues to produce a laser effect. That is, the molecule is gone, but its trace remains. This can be called the bringing of the molecule. Pyotr Garyaev did not rule out that after 40 days from the dead DNA molecule remained a certain framework of ultralight particles. However, for its fixation requires more accurate and sensitive equipment, which is not yet in any laboratory in the world. The structure of the hereditary apparatus of any living creatures is approximately identical, Garyaev noted. Consequently, the processes that occur during the destruction of DNA molecules, little different in a chicken or a human. It may very well be that the same information energy trace continues to exist after our life ends. Once Pyotr Garyaev repeated his experiment with the destruction of a DNA molecule. With the help of special devices, the scientists measured acoustic processes in the nucleus. According to Garyaev, the frequency of acoustic vibrations of DNA can be compared with the frequency of the human voice. By the way, Garyaev stated that he has indirect evidence that there is a record of someone's speech non-DNA. The scientist conditionally called it the speech of the creator. At the beginning of the experiment, the scientist measured the acoustic field of DNA molecules that had not yet been exposed to unfavorable influences. The molecules sang harmoniously at low frequencies. However, in the process of destruction under the influence of high temperatures, the acoustic field of molecules changed. It was as if they were screaming with pain and horror. We leave a very strong information energy trace. It remains and has an impact. Information energetic traces of different people permeate literally everything around us, the very atmosphere, objects, water and air, everything. And traces not only of living people, but also of those who have left. After making the necessary measurements, Pyotr Garyaev cooled and cleaned the cuvette, then placed new DNA molecules in it, which had not been exposed to any influence. What the instruments recorded shocked the scientist. The new DNA molecule behaved just like the destroyed one. The instruments recorded the same screams of terror. The DNA molecules were experiencing the same suffering. Thanks to this experiment, Pyotr Garyaev came to the conclusion that the phantom of a person who died not his death has a high energy activity and can affect people not in the most favorable way. In addition to his research, in which he tried to prove the existence of the soul, Pyotr Garyaev reached the level of information medicine, where treatment is carried out with the help of certain information, for example, sound programs. Such programs are a quantum representation of the state of a particular healthy person. Garyaev's matrix is a program recorded by laser from blood or even a child's photo of a patient and turned into an acoustic hologram. It can be used to treat this patient or his relatives. Pyotr Petrovich Garyaev was nominated for the Nobel Prize, dated the 20th of October, 2020. And on the 17th of November of the same year, the outstanding scientist did not become. Everyone who knew and saw the academician, including in this time period, noted his youthfulness, healthy appearance, activity, full of plans. He always looked much younger than his passport age. His sudden death caused people to be shocked and to think that he had been eliminated. Garyaev had become disliked by very high levels of world power. It was frightened not only by his unique scientific effects, but even, at the beginning of the pandemic, and visionary statements. After all, by creating quantum copies of diseases and introducing them into a person, as he claimed, it is possible to change his DNA in the necessary side of these authorities.